Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Super Cool Radio. I'm your host, always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have an incredible guest who I'm super excited to chat with and have on the podcast. He is a legendary drummer and arguably the greatest living drummer. Please welcome the one and only Carmine Appice.
Hey, how you doing? I'm ready to rock, man. Here I am. I'm ready to rock, right?
You come prepared.
I'm in my studio. This is where all the damage is done. As you can see back there. Can you see that back there? You see the
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's where all the damage is done. I record there. I do videos in there. And I just watched the new cut of the Howlin' Wolf song, A Little Red Rooster, with Dee Snider singing it. And Tracy Guns, Jimmy Haslip, myself, Artie Dillon from Cactus, and my buddy Rockin' Jake from Florida, tremendous harmonica player around the area. And we just did the video. It's a CGI video and takes place in the 20s, and we're in an old country town. I'm playing out on the field, and Dee's driving a 1920s car. And it's really, really cool. It's really a different kind of video because nobody was in the same room, or anything. And we're done by CGI, and he's driving like a 1920s beautiful red, I don't know what kind of car it is, convertible, like in the 20s. And it looks like an old video, and then it turns into color. And I'm not going to give it away, but it's really cool.
Well, that sounds incredible. And obviously, Temple Blues 2 available April 3rd. So kind of diving into this with Cactus, obviously. And so I'm kind of curious. So this album, kind of like the previous album, features many incredible, musicians, guest stars, all of that. So how did it for this album? How did all the guests come together? How did you guys get all these musicians?
The same way we did the other one. I did the demo starting in my studio here. I started with a click. I started with me singing the riffs. I started with me singing a little bit of the verse, or even humming the verse if I don't know the lyrics. And then sometimes I play bass to the track, and then I put drums on it. And then I was sending to my guitar player, Artie Dillon, who's in Cactus, and he put the guitars on it. Maybe sometimes he'd put a real bass. And we sent it to our singer, Ed Terry, and he would put a vocal on it. Now we have a demo. But unlike the last album, which we did all Cactus songs, this album has 3 Cactus songs and has 7 legitimate blues songs by Howlin' Wolf and Willie Dixon. And they all came from the same album that Evil came from, called Howlin' Wolf's Electric Album, which is a great record. Has some great drum parts, which I emulated, made it a little more me, but emulated the tracks. And then once we got the demos, I said, well, let me see who would do good on this. And with one song called Down to the Bottom, which I had somebody I never worked with before, Richard Fordix. And I tell you the truth, I didn't even know how I got Richard's number, but I found out he was a big, big Cactus fan, and he's from New York area. And there's a lot of, like Steve Stevens was a big Cactus fan from the New York area. He was on the last album. So I gave him the track. I said, I want you to copy this track. Just follow us. So we started with him, actually, on this track. It was different. And he did a great job. And then I put Phil Soussan from Ozzy and Billy Idol on bass. And I said, well, who's going to sing it? I did the drums, of course, first. I said, who should sing this one? And I said, well, this sounds like Doug Pinnick. So I called Doug and I said, I got this great song. Will you do it? Yeah, I love it. He loved Cactus, big Cactus fan. And then he did it. And that's how it all went. I feel the song out, say, okay, maybe this would be good. Like we did Bad Stuff. So Bad Stuff was from the 4th Cactus album and had a B3 organ on it. So I said, well, who am I going to get to do B3 organs? So I got Derek Sherinian from Dream Theater, because he was an old friend of mine. So I knew he would be on it. And then I got Tony Franklin to play bass, so I knew he would be great on that. And then once we got that together, I said, well, I'd love to get Steve Morse on this one, because this would the kind of track he could really burn up on. And then singing it, I said, my singer sounds kind of like Jolene Turner. So I said to Joe, I said, why don't you do this track? He said, well, why don't you sing? It sounds great. I said, yeah, but I want you on it, you know? So he did it, and now we got an amazing track with all these guys on it. And Steve's solo was amazing. Joe sounded great. Artie did some rhythm, and Tony and Derek. It was really awesome. And that's how, and it's a lot of fun for me. It's like painting a picture, you know? It's like, who's going to be on this? What color is this going to be? What color, you know? And I love doing it. I do it all here in my studio. I engineer my own drums. I engineer some stuff that needs to be done, you know, over here, overdubs and, you know, percussion and stuff I do myself. And then I have an amazing co-producer, Pat Regan, who mixes all this stuff and listens to it and adds, why don't we try this, why don't we try that? And then when he mixes it, he's just an amazing mixer. So I get a great drum sound here in my room. This is like a guest house, so the drums are always set up. They never leave, same drum set. So I can record something today, come back next week and fix something I don't like, you know? And I engineer it myself, and then I give him my drum sound, and he fine-tunes it even better. And then he works with all the other instruments and gets an amazing sound. That's why the record sounds so good, you know? Don't you think they sound great, you know?
Oh yeah, and I kind of did want to speak to that. Obviously, the quality of it. I mean, Cactus never had bad quality. I just want to say that right away. You guys always sounded so great, but like with this, I don't know. It just feels like it has a slightly different like vibe to it. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. It's like on the cover we said Cactus. You see the cover?
The new one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a Camaro. A Mustang. It's a Mustang. It says Cactus, and the license plate, you know, somewhere says All Stars, you know, Temple of Blues 2. And then we put a Cactus logo instead of the Mustang. We put this like a phallic penis on there with testicles made of a cactus. That we couldn't do that in the old days. In the old days, you had like Corvettes, EJ Corvettes, and Macy's sold all the LPs, and they wouldn't rack it. So we used to make. We had stickers. We put all over the place. One time we did a festival. We had a Cactus Queen. She came out with 5 cactus stickers on. That's it, you know. And so we used that phallic thing on the back of the album cover and on the Mustang. Instead of the Mustang, it's got the cactus emblem. So it was a lot of fun doing it. And you know, we did a lot of crazy stuff and Feel So Good. We got a section at the end which is like swirls around. I kind of wanted it to be like a Whole Lot of Love with all that crazy stuff they did. You know, we got all these drummers played. You can't tell because we put them really thin, radio sounding. You got Mike Portney, Nico McBrain, my brother Vinny, and you got voices on Feel So Good and all this crazy stuff swirling. I got a theremin, you know, and we got a guitar battle with Tommy Thayer and Britt Lightning from Kiss and Vixen. It's just a lot of fun picking out crazy things like I said, like a painting. You know, how's it gonna complete? They got Billy Sheehan on bass, and in that little crazy section, he's playing like fuzz bass, like Tim Bogert. You know, and I'm really proud of the way these records come out because I try and keep the Cactus vibe. You know, and you know, Jim McCarty didn't want to play on this one because he's really like. Kind of stuck in 75, you know, 72. And he said, I don't like the way all these new guys play our songs, you know. I think it's great. You know, I think it's fantastic. You know, you got Alex Soltnick playing that one track with Rudy Sarzo. Man, it's killer, you know. Crazy combinations, you know.
Oh, it definitely is, and it sounds so great, and it's just cool to see, like, just, you know, with everyone you have that, you know, everyone just puts in some great work with it. And kind of going to your point, I wanted to ask real quick. So, like, how important do you think it is to, like, evolve, you know, the Cactus sound with these, like, you know, last couple albums?
Well, I think what it's doing is just bringing Cactus more into today. You know, because me personally, I haven't been on the charts since Blue Murder in 1989. And this Cactus album last time broke in the blues charts on Billboard at number 3, and it stayed in the top 10 for a long time. The same thing with Amazon has their own blues charts. So now we're trying with this album, we're trying to place it so maybe it breaks in number 1 at the blues charts on Billboard and actually get on the Billboard charts. We're having a big gig we're working on in April where we're going to give money to Tunnel to Towers. We've got a donor that's giving us money to do a big gig with Eric Gales. I mean, what about the Eric Gales, Billy Sheehan, and me track? It's unbelievable, man. It's a blues album. There's 7 blues songs on there. The last album was just Cactus album. This is 7 blues album, blues songs on one album, plus 3 Cactus songs that are blues rock with this Willie Dixon, Helen Wolf songs on there. So you can't get away that this is a blues album. I'm really hoping that we can get a nomination for a Blues Grammy with this, because it's really great blues. And I love blues. I love this kind of blues. So
for sure.
If we get Cactus on the regular charts, then we brought Cactus back to today,
Oh, definitely. I really hope that happens for you guys. You guys have been putting in a ton of work with everything you guys do from, your whole legacy and career. So I really hope that does happen. And that kind of does lead me to another question I did want to ask, talking about the charts, especially with the previous album. Did the reception, what was your reaction to the reception from the previous album?
I thought it was great. When it broke into blues charts at number 3 and stayed around there, the only thing ahead of us was Slash's blues album and somebody else's blues album. I think it was might have been Bonamassa, But I thought that was great company. And, to break in the charts at number 3 was fantastic. I thought for sure we'd get at least some sort of nomination. And they put us in a rock album. That wasn't right. But maybe because there was Cactus songs. But you can't deny now the 7 blues songs from the Blues Masters, on there. So if they put us in a rock album again, then there's something wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
But I look, I'm proud of it. I don't care what they do. Just like the Rock Hall of Fame, Vanilla Fudge should have been in there 20 years ago, and we're not. And they put Madonna in there. It's crazy. But I don't care. I got walls full of awards here. I got all the albums and I'm fine. But it would be nice. But if I can get I don't care if I even win. If we can get a nomination for blues, I'd be very happy.
Oh, for sure.
And if we don't, I'll be happy. If we get on the charts, I'll be a happy guy.
Oh, definitely. But I mean, it is undeniable, especially with how this new album, it's a blues album. If anyone says otherwise, they're just ridiculous. I just want to say that.
I mean, you got Eric Gales, who's a blues guy, with Billy Sheehan and me doing Backdoor Man. I mean, what a version. I love Eric. I mean, I know Eric for a long, long time. And it's the first time I ever got to work with him on some music together. And, man, it was just smoking. The 3 of us. And Billy Sheehan, what I did was that was different. I played drums. We got the basic demo. Then I gave it to Eric. And, it goes into part 1 was the actual and then part 2 is up-tempo, I did the up-tempo because I wanted to hear him smoke, Eric and Billy, So we did the guitar first, and then we gave it to Billy. So when Billy did, he started following some of Eric's lines, which were amazing, And then when I came back, when Eric gave it back to me, I said, Eric, you didn't play the up-tempo. He said, well, I thought that was for me to smoke. I said, no, dude, that's for you. I want to hear you smoking on it. So I sent it back to him. And then he did the end. I said, whoa, that's more like it. And that track opening up the album was like, wow, It's just, it's the ultimate in trio.
Definitely is. And, I was listening to that because it's been released, obviously, ahead of the album. And you guys are just killer on that. There's no other real way to say it. You guys, you smoke, you just did, it was phenomenal work. It was just, It was so awesome to listen to.
And then you get the other crazy track with Cactus and Melanie doing Purple Haze. I mean,
yes.
That is crazy. I mean, that was Brian Pereira, the label president, said, we got the rights to her vocals from her estate. We got a vocal of her singing, with an acoustic guitar and a couple other things, doing Purple Haze. We'd like to do Cactus and her, you think you guys can do it? Me and my engineer, Pat Regan. I said, sure. So they gave it to us. We took it off. He took it off. They took it off that whatever they do to take it off that tape, and he gave it to me, and he stretched it so it went to a click. Now I did the drum arrangement around her vocal first, and then I gave it to Artie. Played guitar on it. Artie Dillon, my guitar from Cactus, and Tony did bass. So we put the guitar on, then the bass to her vocal. Come on, that the original song she had about the roller skates, you'd never know it was the same person. You know, she sounded like Janis Joplin. It was amazing. You know, and that's a couple of screams she did in that song. It's just ridiculous. And Artie plays ridiculous. Then we go to an up-tempo solo and that back down. It's fantastic. And Pat did an amazing job mixing it. We got the middle section where it's psychedelic, like the 70s, you know, and the end, the psychedelic. It's fantastic. I mean, I love every track. I mean, I don't know if I can play. I'm gonna have to play the whole album live.
That would be a treat. That definitely would be.
You know, I go to Cactus gig and see Cactus Temple of Blues 1 and 2 live. You know, and we'll release a double album.
I'm all for that. I am all for that.
Me too. Me too. And for me, it's easy. I walk through my garage. I come in here. It's the guest house. My drums are there. Turn everything on and work. You know, and then afterwards work out, and the rest. I got a little gym area over here. I work out, be healthy, and it's great. You know, it's so much better when I did so much work in here in the last 5 years. My brother Vinny set me up in this. He had a studio in California. I said, Vinny, can you set me up with something? He used to build computers. He still does. So he built me this computer. I have 3 hard drives in it. You know, like 8 gigabytes and 8 terabytes. You know, 2 terabytes and 500 gigabytes. And you know, he told me how to use it. I got 4 Focusrite. I got 16 tracks in for the drums. And I got the mic down the hallway, you know, all the stuff I learned from Andy Johns, you know, I'm putting into effect here. And I get a killer drum sound. And then I send it to Pat, and he fine-tunes it. I mean, the drum sound on that record is kick-ass, you know, on both records, all my records I've been doing here. Otherwise, the other choice is I go into a studio, I set the drums up, I go, here's the drum sound, bing, 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 tom-tom, bass drum, you know, take 2 hours to do that shit. And then I take it home, I do 3 tracks, I take it home, go, oh man, I don't like that drum fill. I can't go back. You know, over here I can go back. I can record something today and next week go in and fix it if I don't like it, which I've been doing. I'm working on an album for Cleopatra, a song by Thor, you know, Thor, the Canadian artist. And they said, do whatever you want. I did whatever I wanted. And then they said, oh, it's a little too far out. Maybe you should do the verses a little more like. So I said, okay. So we went in and we fixed the verses. I can't do that in somebody's studio unless my drums are set up and they stay set up. I never leave, these drums never leave the room. And there's specific, the bass drums are from 1971, the actual Cactus bass drums. You know, the snare drum is a 2004 Slingland snare drum, Radio King, one of the last Radio King drum sets they made in the original factory, you know. And then I got the Carmine Toms from D-Drum, which is a company I use now. I got all prototype cymbals. And I got a little drum on the left. Sometimes you listen to the stereo, you hear the drum on the left. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do, yep.
Yeah, and that's this little itty-bitty drum that my wife threw a 75th birthday party, and she put one of these drums in every table. And they put flowers on it. And then I had a couple. I gave one to my friend's son down the street. And I went to his house. He's playing this. Wow, that drum sounds great. So I used to have a little piccolo drum on the left side. I replaced it with this little drum. And man, it sounds good. You know, and then when you go like across, you go from the left, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then onto the big snare in the middle, the tom on the left, the tom on the right, middle, and then the floor tom. You go da da do 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 do, and it goes right across all the speakers. You know, it's really cool. I don't know if you noticed that, but
yeah, I pick up here or there with everything, but that is such an incredible setup that you have, and to such a high quality production that you have, and you can go back and edit. Now, I do have an important question I would like to ask. Actually,
Okay.
this is from my friend Andrew, who sent this to me after I said I was going to interview you because he is a huge fan of your work. And he wanted me to ask you, you've obviously been a very influential drummer in a band setting, such as, Cactus, Vanilla Fudge, Rod Stewart. And judging from your writing credentials, I assume you've had some say in the arrangements and like how, as you talked about earlier, about how to arrange the drums and the
Right.
songs. But he wanted to know, like, for some settings, such as like the 1978 Paul Stanley album, did you have like say in like how to like the drum parts, or is it more
No,
just dictated from other people?
I just did it my way. I mean, that's the whole thing. When I did Pink Floyd too, Bob Evgen called me, said, "There's a band I'm producing is just screaming for Carmine drum fills." I said, "Who?" He said, "Pink Floyd." I said, "Where's Nick?" He said, "Well, Nick's calluses are wrong. They wanted some new blood, and they had me and Jim Keltner. I played on one track, but totally different, And it was like a 618, but the drum fills were massive. Same thing with Paul Stanley. I mean, I know I sing also, so I know where to play drums and not get in the way of the vocals. So during the verses and choruses, I do that. But I know on the end, where there's a fade, I know where to put big drum fills, that power, to build tension and release and build tension and release. And I know where to put those. And when I did Paul Stanley album, I did, that came out, it was a big hit. And I went on a clinic tour. And on the first day, people said, "Well, what are those fills you did in Paul Stanley?" Honestly, I don't know because I just play whatever comes out. I don't like thinking, I don't have like, when I joined Blue Murder, John says, "You got so many drum fills." He said, "Cozy Powell only had 3 or 4, but you got so many." Because I don't particularly do this one or that one. I just do whatever comes out. So I didn't know what I did. Second day of the clinic was the same thing. "What did you do on the post down?" Third day, I went to a store and I bought the cassette. I listened on my Walkman. Once I listened to it, then I kind of knew what I did. And then sure enough, "What'd you do on the Paul Stanley?" "Oh, well, I did this, you know? And I can break it down because I'm a studied drummer. I wrote drum book. My book, Realistic Rock, has sold almost 500,000 copies, just been re-released again. And, I did clinics. I was the first one to do a rock drum clinic of any instrument back in 1972. And I'm an educator, so I know what I'm doing, kind of. And because I sing, also, I try not to cross drum fills with vocals, and I majored in music in high school, so I learned how to build chords, and I sang doo-wop, when I was a kid. So I knew how to build chords, and sing without any instruments, So all that background, gave me fuel to do what I do.
Oh, for sure. I really appreciate you answering. I got one more follow up, and then we'll be closing this out here pretty soon.
Sure.
But curious for you. So, like, when you approach like recording or even just creating a song, like with like Cactus, Vanilla Fudge, do you like have a kind of idea going in, like I'm going to start with this and then go from there, or do you just go like feeling and emotion?
It depends. Sometimes, it just depends. With Vanilla Fudge, it was me and Mark Stein. A lot of Mark Stein came up with "You Keep Me Hanging On," but I came up with the drum part, with the twirl, hitting the cymbal, and grabbing the cymbal, and doing the fill and all the different things that I've done. The ba 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 ba, all that stuff. So that just comes when I hear what's going on. Then I listen to it and melodically, musically try and put something that I know will work. You know, some songs I wrote, like when I did an album with Fernando Perdomo, I did an instrumental album. I have songs that I wrote on my iPad on GarageBand that I wrote with my fingers playing drums and playing bass and all that stuff. And then I gave it to him and he redid it in his way with a click. And then I put real drums on it. So it depends. I've written stuff on there that ended up in me and my brother's album with vocals and everything. I did vocals on there and had different things. And I wrote some Christian songs on the iPad. So it just depends on what I'm doing.
Oh,
But
for sure.
I'm lucky. I have an arsenal of places to get ideas and to draw from. Not just like I'm a drummer. You know, I'm a drummer, I'm a singer, I'm a producer, I'm a writer. I wrote Rod Stewart's biggest hits, you know, arranger with Vanilla Fudge. I mean, some of the songs on Vanilla Fudge Records, I arranged totally. I wrote, I arranged. Some of them Mark Stein did, some of them we did, me and Mark together, and the band pitching in. You know, my drums, I got the big drums because they needed volume. I started a whole fad. I got the drums for John Bonham. You know, in my new drum book, I got a picture of me on the top and John on the bottom with the same drum set. You know, I was lucky, knock on wood. I was around when this all started. You know, we all started. It was just me, Keith Moon, Mitch Mitchell, and Ginger Baker, and Dino Dinelli. That was it back then for influential drummers. You know, and I worked with Ludwig in developing different drum things, developing heavier stands, heavier pedals, bigger drums. You know, I was like the guinea pig, and I did the first one to do the clinic with them. Once I wrote the book, they said, you got to do clinics. When I was in Vanilla Fudge, I wouldn't do that. I was too much of a rock star. You know, but then after I wrote my book, Realistic Rock, they said, you know, you got to go out and do clinics to support it. And the only ones doing clinics back then were like Joe Morello, Max Roach. These were like jazz guys. And but since I was an educator, I studied. I know what I was doing. I gave lessons. When I wrote the book, I had a studio in Long Island. I experimented with the book with the students to make sure that it worked before we put it out. And then when I put it out, my lawyer said, you're getting 500 advance, which, you know, 1971 was okay money. But the good thing is you own the copyright. I didn't even know what that meant back then. I found out later. Here it is 50 years later, and I'm still redoing the book, and just got a new deal on Hudson Music. Realistic Rock just came out. And on the back, it has all the guys that I influenced, all the guys that recommended, like Dave Weckl, Greg Bissonette, Chad Smith, Kenny Arnoff, Marco Minimum, all these great drummers that have been through the book and saying this is the book. And every time I release it, I add new stuff. New modern stuff. So the book is good. You know, I'm going to go out now and I did a master class 2 nights ago. And it was great. I haven't been doing clinics in a while because there's not a lot of clinics these days. So we're going to do master classes instead to promote the book on my days off. You know, go to an area and do 2 or 3 drum stores or music stores, and 2 hours apart, you know, and promote the book and sell the book. You know, that's how you sell stuff. That's how I did it originally. But I just love music. You know, I'm going to play until I can't play anymore. I mean, look, I'm not as fast as I used to be. I used to be a freaking animal, you know. I think Animal was based after my persona, actually. You know, I challenged Animal to a drum battle, and they took the idea and they said they loved the idea, but we're not going to use you. We're going to use Buddy Rich, and Buddy was my friend at the time. He did a great job, but it was my idea, you know. And but you know, I did a lot of crazy things in my career. I haven't been with one big band like a Rush or a Zeppelin, you know, so that's why I'm probably not as big as these guys, because those guys were in one big band for years and years. You know, I switched around. Some of the bands didn't do as good as others, but you know, I'm glad, knock on wood, I'm still here. And a lot of those guys died, you know, and I'm still here kicking ass.
Oh, absolutely. It's still sounding great, looking great with everything. And Carmine, I really appreciate your time, taking the time to chat with me. It's been incredible to meet you and to pick your brain a little bit about everything you have in the works.
Cool.
I do just want to say
I enjoy it. You know, all of it. Talking about it, doing it, playing it. You know, I'm good for all that.
Oh, for sure. And I do just want to say before we head out, so obviously you got some tour dates coming up with Cactus and Vanilla Fudge. So if anyone's in those areas, I'll leave some tour dates in the description of this podcast. Please come out and support Carmine and everyone a part of those bands as well, because you will have a fantastic time.
Where are you?
I'm based in South Bend, Indiana. So a couple hours from Chicago.
We just played in St. Charles with my Rod show.
Yes, yeah, the Arcadia, I believe.
Just did that, the Arcadia, yeah, and that's where we're going to do the Cactus benefit show. Supposed to be during the first week of April to go with this thing. We're just trying to sort out the donor that sent a lot of money that we need to do the show, and then we're going to give money to Tunnel to Towers as the charity, And on the show so far, I think it's Ted Nugent, Eric Ailes, Billy Sheehan, Pat Travers, Bumblefoot, and the Cactus Band, and Tony Franklin and Johnny Rod. That's like it. We're planning to do 2 days, and we're going to have merch with the Cactus and the Tunnel of Towers logos smashing together somehow. But we're just waiting for this money to come through so we can actually start advertising and confirm everybody. But if it ain't that day, we'll have to do it a week or two later, But it's going to be at that venue.
Oh, awesome! That's a fantastic venue. If I got my schedule working out, I'll definitely try to come out because that's going to sound like an incredible show with an all-star studded cast.
Yeah, Cactus All Stars. That's it.
That's right. Well,
Great, man.
It's very nice to meet you. For Carmine Appice, I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty.